Hey everybody, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Olson-Silik and we've got an exciting show in store for you this week. I'll take you over to the Thumb where we spent a very windy night out on the pier out of the Caseville Harbor chasing after burbot. It's a pretty unique story. You won't want to miss that. And Jimmy and Jordan have been working on some exciting adventures for us this week too.
Well, that's right, Jenny. Speaking of unique outdoor adventures, last week found me tagging along with a high school senior in Charlevoix County on his trap line. You won't want to miss that story. And with the proposed ban on baiting starting on January 1, some of you out there might be thinking more about food plots than you ever had before. Well, we're going to sit down with an expert on this week's show and show you what food plots can really do when they're done correctly. Lots of good stuff on this week's show. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan out of doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream. It's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's destination since 1988. Featuring varieties of homemade sausage, jerky, brats, and gourmet entrees. Holiday gift boxes can be assembled in-store or online. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Discount Door Company, featuring residential and commercial garage doors, door styles, and build-your-own design tool available at discountdoorsgr.com. Discount Door Company, serving West Michigan and the Grand Rapids area for over 25 years. By Hemisphere Design Works, a Muskegon manufacturer of sportsman's outdoor products for over 30 years, featuring the Terrain line of hard-sided hunting blinds designed for quick setup and removal with quiet operation. For more information and other products, hemispheredesignworks.com.
Soaking in the rich tradition of Michigan hunting for over 30 years, Vanguard is proud to sponsor our friends at Michigan Out of Doors TV.
Last week found me doing something just a little bit different. While most are trying to find their way to a tree this time of year, that's not the case for everyone. Chase Overbeek, a senior in high school, is hard at work this time of year on his 20-mile trap line. I met Chase earlier this summer on a fishing story, and when he mentioned his love of trapping, well, I had to make my way to Charlevoix County to follow him along for a day on the trap line.
There, that's a little guy.
Yeah, it is.
It's a little baby. Back foot catch. All right, first trap.
Yeah, first one. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Explain what you're gonna. How do you set this here?
So, this is actually a mink set that I have here. What I got right here is a little hole up in the bank. Mud's all just kind of the bank all slicked up, and then I've got a little bit of fish bait back in that hole, and I just set the trap. I set them light, because these animals aren't very big. You just set it right in front of the hole like that. Yep, so I got a little bit of fish bait back up in there. Traps right here. Just drop the trap down, set it right up there. So the hope is the mink will come walking along the bank, whatever. Obviously we had a muskrat, and he'll hit the trap and fall out in deep water and drown.
Nice. When left unchecked, these muskrat and beaver populations can really explode. I asked Chase how he got started trapping.
I just always kind of had an interest in it. And just started by catching coons and stuff in the backyard, and then just kind of got into it from there. Started collecting traps and started pushing a line out, and next thing you know, I'm catching beavers and running a 20-mile line. And for me it was learning how to catch coons and all that stuff first, which is fairly easy, and muskrats, and then started getting into the beavers and coyotes and all that stuff. And just figuring out the way they think and what they do and how to catch them and how to outsmart them.
Outsmarting them can be a little tricky, especially when it comes to beavers. This pond here looked like it held some decent numbers, so Chase put a few traps in, and it looked like we had some success.
What we got is there's some runs coming in here. They've got a den in the bank. So I just plugged each run with a 330 beaver trap, and we got one right here. Doesn't look like a super big one, but oh, it's a black one. Look at that. Ooh, that's something you don't catch very often. Black beaver.
Wow.
That is pretty cool right there.
And that's not a big one, eh?
No, it's just a,
It looks pretty big.
no, this is just a probably
Medium?
year and a half, 2 years. Look at that though, that is black. I've only caught one other black beaver before. That is something. Tail.
If you have ever walked a beaver dam, it's pretty amazing how much these critters can do, and just how much it can change the landscape of an area.
Yeah, that's probably maybe 25, 30 pounder.
Okay.
Biggest one I've caught is 53.
Wow. And what kind of trap is this here?
It's a 330 conibear. They're pretty much only for beaver and otter. So how that works is they just swim through there, they hit that trigger, it flings that off. Once you take your safeties off, those springs just fling down. It kills them instantly. So.
This little travel spot for them here? Is that where they're
Yep.
moving through here?
Yep, it's just a hole going up in there. They got a den up under there. And you just put it right in front, block it down, so that's the only way through. And they usually, I mean, you can see they've got a channel here. It's wore out where they're going in. So usually there's a pretty defined spot to put it.
Some of the spots were a little harder to get to, but what a beautiful place to spend your day. And from what I was learning from Chase, is that he just loves being in the out of doors.
Tell me what happened with this guy down there.
So had them on a jaw trap set where they're crossing over the dam with a drowning rig. And what happens is when they get caught, they slide down the drowning rig and it locks up on them and they expire down there. So
We've quite a few beavers around here, eh?
yeah, not bad.
Some folks trap for the money, some trap because they love to outsmart the animal, some love the solitude, and some for all of those reasons. I asked Chase how he goes about selling the furs once he's done cleaning them.
Well, when you bring it to the fur buyer, they'll check it over, they'll check the hide, see how prime the fur is, see how much it's worth, how big it is, what kind of leather it's got on it. They go through all that stuff and base the prices off of that. And they'll give you a price on them and make a deal. I don't care about the money, it's just, I just love getting out and doing it. I guess just, for one, just being outside. It's just what I love to do. And just learning how to understand animals and what they're thinking, what they're doing, what their habits are, and just seeing all the different animals you can catch, and it's just a blast. I'm assuming they've just got little feed dens or something in there. And we're just taking these little body grip traps, just like the beaver traps, and you can see their runs coming in. And you just take it and stick it right in their run, just like so.
So far we had 3 muskrat and 2 beavers, and in our last spot of the day it looked like we had one more for the skinning shed.
Ooh,
That's a little better.
nice.
He almost got through there.
Wow.
We're just gonna pull this trap right out of here because that's the only one in here.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about this spot here.
So, this guy that I knew had these beavers plugging up his deer hunting land here by the road and gave me permission to come down here and set a trap. They got a little house here and yeah, just threw a 330 in this trail going right down in between the grass and it worked.
Third
We
beaver
got
of the
him.
day. Nice
Yeah.
job, young fella.
Thank you.
Is that a pretty good day then?
Yeah, that's a very good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chase was able to help this landowner out by removing this beaver that had dammed up his hunting land. Trappers play an important part in our outdoor landscape. From coons to muskrat, beaver to coyotes, there are several populations that trappers help manage. It's hard work though, and long hours. Once back to home, Chase has a lot of work ahead of him, skinning and fleshing these hides to get them ready to be sold to the fur buyer. It is great to see the younger generation continuing on the tradition of trapping. There are many creeks and beaver ponds in our great state. If you're looking to expand your time afield, maybe starting a trap line is for you. Either way, thanks to all the many trappers across our state for keeping our outdoor traditions alive and well here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
In this next story, we are going to head over to the pier in Caseville for some nighttime fishing for burbot. Now, burbot are something we don't see very often, but they are all over our Great Lakes. We're going to head out on a pretty windy night to try to catch some of those burbot. If you haven't been to the Caseville Harbor and Pier in a while, it may look a little different. It recently received a facelift that's made it easier for folks to access the water here where the Pigeon River meets Saginaw Bay. With the winds at 20 miles an hour and building, Paul Ninoltowski and friends geared up to hit the pier.
We're going to do a little bit of burbot fishing, and we're going to specifically target them. And there's a little bit of a crew here behind us out back there. Walleye showed up this week too, so guys are casting for walleye at the same time, so we might get lucky and get some of those also. So basically the trick to the game is using like bait that you're going to fish on the bottom, so like catfish, things that would swim on the bottom, you'd use similar baits. I particularly have found that dead minnows, large dead minnows, work the best. So I've already emptied the water bucket and the minnows are flopping around there getting ready to use them. And I like to lay both baits down on the bottom, like both rods out in the middle kind of the channel and then on the bottom. And hopefully the fish, when they're swimming around, they'll come and pick them up and find them.
All right, how deep are you fishing?
This is probably, 10 feet in the middle of this channel. The banks are a little bit higher, maybe 6 feet, but the water's up right now pretty good, so it's probably all of 10 to 12 feet today.
What are the burbot doing in here this time of year?
Basically, from what I believe, they're coming in to spawn. This is their spawning season, and I have found that the fish are usually pretty healthy this time of the year too, even though I know like some people relate spawning to like salmon spawning and the fish being dead, but they're not like that. They're more like the lake trout, where they're coming in to spawn, and then when they're done, they go back out to the lake.
Paul said the fish would start biting once darkness set in tonight, and he was right. Not long after dark, he was battling the first burbot of the night. The guys had retreated down against the west sidewall of the pier to get some relief from the east winds that were now clocking 28 miles an hour. These are some pretty interesting fish to see up close. So, yeah, talk to me about burbot. Why do you enjoy fishing for burbot?
Well, I think one of the most interesting things for me is when I was younger, my dad had caught a master angler burbot out on the lake. And when we were just fishing one day, and they always just look so fascinating to me. The lines on them and the color and what they look like is just so different from all the other fish. And then I had a friend that turned me on to this down here, and he said he was out here burbot fishing, and my buddy Jeremy was just helped me out all the way along the way and showed me how to do it. And he came down here one night with me after work, and before you knew it, we were catching them one after another. And I think the best part, what really got me liking it, was eating them. The eating them was even better. It's like eating cod fillets, like cod back straps. They're really good.
Burbot are known by many names, including lingcod, eelpout, lawyer, and poor man's lobster. They're a member of the freshwater cod family, but look more like a cross between a catfish and an eel, and pretty cool to see up close. Here in Michigan, there is no size limit and no daily possession limit on burbot.
That one was a little more fun than the last one because he went down and wanted to stay on the bottom. But we ended up getting him up. He was stuck in the weeds, and we were able to pull him out and get a good net job on him. So
tonight we were fishing in Caseville, but Paul says the fishery is not exclusive to the Caseville area. In fact, there are lots of places around the state to catch them.
The fishing here for burbot is actually good. I do it in our hometown from Port Austin. Same thing, either fishing from the breakwall or fishing down on the canal by Bird Creek by the gas dock. But I found them in here, and I found them all the way down in most of the streams and creeks, all the way into Saginaw Bay, like lower Saginaw Bay, right to the river. There's guys a couple days ago were catching them in Sand Point, up in the canal up there, and then, you know, further down, as far as even like we were talking lower Saginaw Bay, I heard a couple guys this week getting a few burbot in at Finn Road while they're perch fishing down there.
Derek hooked into a burbot that was fighting to swim under the rocks and possibly break off. Paul was on the net and wasn't going to let that happen. He just about went swimming in the process, but he netted the fish. Burbot fishing is fairly simple to get into.
I think, you know, if someone wanted to, you know, get themselves, like, going to town, you can go to a local bait store, or, you know, even if you have to go to your local Walmarts, but I recommend the local bait stores. And go in there and, you know, basically you're going to need a light and a net and a pole and some crappie rigs and some sinkers. And you can come out here and just, you know, you kind of follow the crowd. You know, there's people fishing, and you can see that they're down here, and just wiggle your way in and make yourself comfortable and sit and be patient. Pretty simple little number size 6 hooks, just like you'd have for sucker fishing in the spring. And it's affordable. You go get your fishing license and come out and have some fun.
These guys were definitely having fun out here on the pier tonight. Paul enjoys fishing with his buddies, but he also fishes for a living. He charters out of Port Austin, primarily for lake trout and walleye, both in the summer and through the ice. Paul says he hasn't taken any clients out burbot fishing yet, but it's always a possibility. It's really interesting to see just how different each burbot looks. The pattern on their skin makes each one different from the next, another unique quality to these fish. By the time 10 o'clock hit, the guys had 6 fish for the cooler, and this camera lady had had enough of the wind for the night. Special thanks to Paul, Derek, and Ken for showing us another fun way to spend an evening here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Well, hey everybody, we are here today, kind of mid-Michigan area, with Nick Piercy, Killer Food Plots. He's been doing food plots, you were saying, for, gosh, almost 30 years. And we're here today just to kind of talk about, we're going to talk about beginner and that kind of stuff, but let's start off with a really good food plot like the one behind us. What does that offer the sportsman? We got this proposed ban of baiting that's going to happen January 1. Maybe more guys are thinking food plots. What can they offer the sportsman?
Well, the food plot actually offers a lot more of a natural draw for whitetails. They, you know, as opposed to a baiting situation where bucks are a little skittish to come out to a corn pile or you know, carrots or apples during daylight. What we're doing in this scenario behind us is we planted the interior food plot, but we also wrapped it with our Border Patrol screening, which gets between 8 and 14 foot tall, depending on, you know, of course, the available light and the soil conditions, but usually about 8 to 10, maybe 12 foot here in Michigan.
And what does that do for you in this kind of scenario? Why do that Border Patrol?
So a mature buck or a mature doe is less likely to come out into a wide open food plot during daylight hours without that sense of security. So 18 years ago, I started developing what is now Border Patrol, and that creates a lot of daytime secure feeling by having that tall height to the food plot. During the spring and summer, deer are very comfortable kind of meandering through open areas. They don't have that threat. But come hunting season, as you start to enter and exit your hunting location, you can bump the deer in the morning, and you know, and that doe telling every deer from here to the next county you're there, she's stomping and snorting. Well, with the Border Patrol, that blocks their vision and all of their senses from being tripped, whether it be smell, vision, or hearing you, and that really helps the hunter be able to come in and get out undetected.
All right, Nick, we're at another location now, and we're kind of down in another little bowl here. Kind of explain, what are you trying to do here, and what's the example here of what a good food plot can do?
So we have a watering hole in behind us, and that watering hole obviously is a draw on the property for the deer. We implemented a food plot on the outer edge of that water hole, and then we wrapped it with Border Patrol again. There's a blind in the background here set up on a stand, and if the hunter was to come over the top of that hill, of course the deer down in the food plot or in the watering hole are going to pick them off. So what we did down the trail that they would normally walk down to the stand, we planted the Border Patrol about 10 foot wide, and then they can go in with a weed whacker with a cutting blade on it, and they can cut a hallway about shoulder width is all you need down the center, and literally create a hallway to wind down undetected to the blind. Now there's food, but there's also bedding areas on either side. So those deer could be either in the food plot or they could be bedded down chewing their cud, and then the deer have no idea that your hunter is dropping down into the blind or leaving at night too. So.
Okay, well, we are in another spot here, Nick, and before you kind of tell me why you put the food plot here, what are we standing in? This is just lush right here.
This is our Carnage Brassicas blend.
Okay.
It's our #1 selling fall blend. It can produce 5 to 7 tons an acre of food. Oh yeah, and it's all available food the deer can eat from the top right down to the root.
So now, on a spot like this, are you just taking advantage of the natural opening that was here, or did you put this opening in?
No, this opening already existed.
Okay.
What we did is we just came in and started to build the soil. So in each one of the plots this year, we added our Groganics Hydration, which is a bulk version of our Groganics Fusion pellet fertilizer that we put in tons of the acre to actually build the sandy, dirty sand that we have here in Michigan, or clay, or any application, to add all the organic matter, to add the micronutrients, carbon, calcium, a lot of the things that are missing in our soil into these plots. And so it was mostly a soil exercise of building the soil and then getting the right food, the right groceries in here.
And before we do the soil sample, what are some common mistakes that you see food plotters make? Is there maybe, guys that have been doing it now for a while, they've been doing it for a while. Yeah. I'm sure they can learn some stuff, but now with the baiting ban coming in, as we talk to maybe a whole new group of sportsmen for next year that are gonna attempt to do some food plotting, common mistakes you see?
First would be not doing a soil sample, just kind of taking the seed and the fertilizer and just throwing it up in the air and hoping for the best. And literally our tagline is, you reap what you sow. And it's so true. If you put a little bit of extra work in, get a little bit of education, follow some standard steps, we're available as a resource. Number 2, people take brassicas. Brassica blends are rape, turnips, radishes. They broadcast them out and they drag them in. And when we have that lighter soil, where if you've done any working up of the soil, either with a disc or a rototiller, it's very fluffy and the seed gets buried too deep and you don't get the germination success. Another thing is, a lot of people do not have a roller, like a yard roller or a cultipacker. So they broadcast their seed out on top of the surface, but they don't make good seed soil contact and they don't get as good of success. Literally, whether you have equipment or don't have the right equipment, in doing the application over the grass and weeds that I talked about, if you roll, you can get 40 to 50% more success in the germination and the life and the plant actually surviving and growing than if you don't roll or cultipack. It's that important of a step, and a lot of people that are in food plotting just drag and call it good, but they would get a lot greater success if the small seed was on the top and it was rolled versus dragged in. So if you're considering doing a food plot, one of the first steps that you should take is to get a soil test kit and get a soil test done on the soil. Why is that? Because a lot of your success or failure has to do with the quality of the soil that you're trying to plant in. So if your soil is sandy, or it's heavy clay or gravel, which most of us are dealing with some type or form of those type of soils, it's very difficult for that soil to maintain and hold the nutrients. So we need to do a test to be able to test pH, phosphorus, potash, some other levels in the soil. And how do we do that? So step 1 is, you can either get a soil probe like I'm holding here, which makes it easier to pull individual plugs, or you can use a standard spade shovel. What you want to do is you want to roll the soil back, if you're using a shovel, about 3 to 4 inches down. So get below the roots of the existing grass and weeds. Roll that back over and then take a small, almost like hand garden shovel, and go ahead and place it here in the bucket. Now you want to do that in multiple locations along where you're planning to plant your food plot. Mix it up, and then we have a small packet in our soil test kit. You're just going to put your information here, give us about 2.5 cups of soil. Take that in the soil sample form and send it into our lab for testing. We will then email back those test results to you, and we'll be able to give you some consult right over the phone, give you some information on what you need to do.
Thanks to Nick at Killer Food Plots. As you can see, when done correctly, a food plot can be a great tool in your arsenal for deer hunting. With changing regulations, food plots may become even more important in our deer hunting landscape.
Thanks for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. It's hard to believe, but next week is opening day of firearm deer season here in Michigan. We will all be out with cameras rolling. We'll also have some other exciting outdoor adventures in store for you over the next few weeks, so make sure you join us. If you'd like to, you can also check us out online.
Well, make sure you are joining us over the next several weeks. Of course, with opening day of deer season, we're going to have hopefully some really good deer hunts over the next several weeks. We have a really cool waterfowl story, a good steelhead story, lots of stuff that we've been up to. So much going on in the state of Michigan right now. Make sure that you are getting out and enjoying it. And if we don't see you in the woods or on the water, hopefully we'll see you right here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Greenstone Farm Credit Services, making recreational land ownership possible across Michigan and northeast Wisconsin. Begin your land financing journey at one of Greenstone's 37 locations or greenstonefcs.com. By the locally owned and operated members of the Michigan Petroleum Association and the National Oil Heat Research Alliance, who provide oil heat with bioheat, a renewable fuel source designed to benefit the home and the environment. Details on the web at useoilheatmichigan.com. By Jay's Sporting Goods, with locations in Clare and Gaylord. Jay's has been serving the Michigan outdoor enthusiast since 1971, with a wide variety of outdoor products. The gear, the knowledge, the tradition of Jay's. On the web at jaysportinggoods.com. By Showspan, producing consumer shows including the Ultimate Fishing Show Detroit, January 10th through the 13th at Novi Suburban Collection Showplace. The show features fishing tackle, trips, boats, and seminars from top pros. The Ultimate Fishing Show, Novi, January 10th through the 13th. Closed captioning provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.